Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's to unpack some uh, really fascinating insights on a critical topic, the role of emotion in leadership.
Hmm.
We're diving into source material that explores whether leaders can, or maybe even should, reveal their true emotions.
Right.
Drop what some people call the mask.
Right. And this material, it kind of cuts right to the core. It asks, can leaders really lead effectively while wearing that mask?
Yeah,
It frames this idea that historically, many leaders felt they just had to hide vulnerability, always putting on this front of, unwavering confidence.
absolutely. I think that's a feeling some of you listening might even relate to.
Oh, definitely. That pressure.
That constant pressure, always needing to be on, seem totally in control. And the source, it presents a really compelling argument that leaders absolutely should drop that mask.
But it does.
But like you said, it's not easy. So
Yeah.
why is it so difficult to move past this historical pattern, especially when the material suggests there's real value in doing it?
Well, the source really zeroes in on these powerful forces, both internal and external. It highlights several key fears that keep that mask kind of glued formally in place,
Like what?
like the fear of appearing weak, for one. Then there's the anxiety about losing respect, maybe from peers, maybe from your team. And a big one is this deep-seated fear of seeming like you've lost control if your real emotions slip out.
Hmm. Those sound like pretty powerful drivers.
You really are. The material positions them as, major barriers rooted in these very traditional ideas of what strength is supposed to look like.
And the source offers this really moving personal perspective that just drives home the human cost. It shares an experience where hiding emotions, especially after personal tragedy, felt just incredibly destructive inside.
Yeah.
Almost destroying shadow and soul was the phrase used.
Wow. That's intense phrasing.
It really is. It illustrates the personal toll, right, of keeping up that constant facade.
And what's insightful there is how that personal reflection isn't just like an isolated story. The source uses it to pivot, to make a broader point.
Which is?
That maybe, just maybe, it's time we fundamentally redefine what strength means in leadership. If holding on to the mask takes that much effort, if it can be that destructive, maybe real strength isn't about hiding vulnerability at all. Maybe it's something else entirely.
That idea of redefinition feels so crucial. Especially when you look at the real-world impact the source talks about. It brings in responses from listeners, actual people.
Exactly.
And these examples, they move it beyond just theory, don't they? They show us what this looks like day to day.
Totally. So one person shared this powerful story
Yeah.
about their CEO who openly cried during a really tough time for the organization.
Okay.
And instead of thinking, oh, they're weak, this person said their respect for the CEO just shot way up. It really underlines how vulnerability, when it's authentic, can build incredible connection, real trust.
Wow. Yeah, that's a strong example.
Hmm.
But there's the flip side too, right?
Right. The source gives another quite poignant example. A manager who just kept this stiff upper lip, hiding their own feelings, while an employee was dealing with something really difficult personally.
And how is that received?
Well, the material notes, it wasn't seen as strength. It actually came across as a lack of care. Like the manager was kind of emotionally unavailable or just didn't have empathy, and that really damaged the relationship.
So trying to appear strong actually backfired, made things worse.
Pretty much. And significantly, the source doesn't ignore the complexity here. It brings up that potential double standard we sometimes see.
Yes, talk about that.
It notes that, well, sometimes when women leaders show emotion, it might be more accepted, maybe even expected in certain situations, but men doing the same thing, they can still face judgment, get called weak.
That definitely adds another layer. These societal expectations really shape things, don't they?
For sure. It influences who feels like they can drop the mask and when it feels safe or maybe even acceptable to do so.
So taking all these perspectives together, the personal cost, the impact on teams, both good and bad, these societal nuances, it really underscores how complex this whole topic of emotion and leadership is. It's not just some abstract concept.
No, it has real, tangible consequences. According to the source, anyway.
Okay, so given this landscape, all these challenges and impacts, how does the material suggest leaders can actually start to make a shift, to move towards something different?
Yeah, the source transitions pretty nicely into looking at some practical approaches, ways leaders can start to integrate emotion more authentically. It presents them under this theme of breaking the mask.
Okay, breaking the mask. I like that. So how does it suggest leaders begin to sort of chip away at those fears we talked about earlier? How do they embody that redefined strength?
It lays out three key strategies. First up, the source suggests scheduling emotional check-ins.
Emotional check-ins, what does that look like?
It means consciously making time, both for yourself, like acknowledging your own feelings, processing them, and importantly, creating specific moments for your team to share how they're doing, beyond just the usual task updates.
Okay, that makes sense. Being intentional about creating that space. What's the second strategy?
The second one is practicing vulnerable storytelling. Now, the source is clear. This isn't about inappropriate oversharing.
Right.
It's more about when it's relevant, when it feels authentic, sharing some personal struggles or challenges you faced, lessons learned. It helps build rapport, shows your humanity, makes you more relatable as a leader.
Got it. Vulnerability, but with purpose. And the third approach.
The third strategy highlighted is actively creating safe spaces for emotion within the team, maybe the whole
How do
organization.
you do that?
It's about signaling really clearly that it's okay, that it's actually encouraged for team members to express their feelings sometimes without worrying about being penalized or seen as unprofessional.
Yeah.
Fostering an environment where emotional honesty isn't just tolerated, it's valued.
So scheduled check-ins, vulnerable storytelling, creating safe spaces. These feel like concrete ways to actually put this idea into practice. Moving from the why it's so hard to the here's how you can start.
Exactly. They offer tangible steps.
And the source wraps all this up with a final thought that really ties it all together. A powerful reframe we kind of touched on earlier. It says, emotion is not weakness. It's the courage to be fully human.
Hmm. That really does flip the traditional script, doesn't it?
Completely. So, considering everything we've just explored, from the source, those deep-seated fears leaders grapple with, the very real human cost of always hiding emotions, those compelling listener examples showing both the good and bad impacts, and then these practical strategies for embracing authenticity. Here's a thought, maybe for you to carry forward. If, as the source suggests, embracing emotion is courage, how might demonstrating that courage, even in what seem like small, consistent ways, like scheduling that quick check-in or sharing a relevant personal story like the material described, how might that fundamentally change the dynamic, either when you experience in a leadership role or when you observe as part of a team?
That's a powerful question to sit with, definitely. How those small acts ripple outward.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.